Okay, again, we're out here today on a beautiful December day, and it's not too cool out, which is nice. And I just want to go over a few things, and that's how to start a fire. I've been into camping, a lot this past couple years. I've been really into it, and I've been watching a lot of survival videos and things to do out in the woods. And one thing that I've been kind of confused on for a long time is really the best way to start a fire out in the woods. And they sell these flint rods and ferro rods and different things that I see a lot of the people use. And I'll be honest with you, starting a fire with one of these rods is actually pretty hard. If you've never done it before, you're not going to just be able to go out there and bam, 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 get a fire going. So I just kind of want to talk a little bit about that today and see if I can get a fire going. Honestly, the best way to really get a fire going is with a lighter or with a match. I don't have any matches out here today, but obviously you know what a match is, and anything that gives you an open flame is going to be the easiest way. The problem is these guys, lighters and matches, are susceptible to becoming waterlogged and totally useless. I know there's waterproof matches. I've used them before and they're kind of finicky. A lot of times they're hard to get started, although the trick usually is to really apply some pressure. Put your finger over the end of the match and just apply a lot of pressure and get that lit. But even them, I've seen them get wet and not work, so they're not foolproof. So when you go to these ferro rods, or this, I'm not exactly sure what this is called, but it actually has flint, just flint on it, and actually this is magnesium, which you can shave off. These they sell at Walmart for around $8. You can get them on Amazon for around $4.50, just to kind of give you an idea. And I'm going to go ahead and try maybe both of these to see how they work. The idea with this is you use the saw part of it to shave off magnesium, and then you can use the flint on the front to get that going. Okay. Problem is, it's kind of a pain to shave off the magnesium and keep it all together along with your tinder and then lighten that up. So what I really like is the ferro rod. The ferro rods, I'm not really sure what their components are in there as far as the metals used, but they actually burn a lot hotter than what just the flint does. Because when I first bought one of these, I was stupid. Whoops, the end fell off. But I was stupid and thought you were just supposed to use the flint to get it going. I didn't realize this was magnesium that burns at a much higher rate, or a much hotter rate. And I was just using the flint. Just the flint, it's very hard to catch tinder with it. But with these ferro rods, it's a lot easier. And what I like is you don't have to shave the magnesium off, try to keep it together. You can just go ahead and get it going. So you can kind of see that. Now this particular brand is Bear Grylls brand from Gerber. I'm not sure if you're a fan of Bear Grylls or not, but the bottom line is he has a certain line of products, and actually this is pretty cool. This in and of itself is waterproof. It keeps the water out, but even if this does get wet, it still will spark long after matches and lighters usually give out. And that's what the advantage of having ferro rods is. They're not easier to start a fire. In fact, they're harder, but they're definitely more waterproof because they can get waterlogged and still light. And plus, typically they last a lot longer than what your matches or lighter will use, or will. Plus, this particular guy can carry tinder up in here. It's kind of a pain to pull it off, but I don't have anything in there now. Came with a cotton ball in there. Cotton balls actually burn very well. They make great tinder, but that keeps the tinder waterproof. So you have an option to be able to carry a little bit with you. Now what I'm actually going to do is, I just got done doing a gun review, so I'm going to look around here and see if I can find some timber for starting material to be able to create a fire. And again, tinder is something that'll take a spark and start to burn. Then you have the kindling, which is a small wood that can continue to burn after there's an open flame. But the real hard part to find is the tinder. Usually grass seems to work pretty well. So if you're in an area where you become stranded, God forbid, or you're out there and you want to start a fire, you kind of got to look around for tinder. Usually grass and leaves work the best. It just so happens that there's a lot of tall grass here, okay? And I believe that this stuff, whoops, I gotta watch there's some jaggers here, but I believe that this stuff will actually burn pretty well. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the camera back in the tripod and see if we can get a fire going just to kind of demonstrate how to do that. And you can see I didn't have to look too long, but depending on how damp it is, you may not be able to get a fire started with one of the ferro rods. Now with the lighter, I'm sure I'll have no problem, but okay, let's go ahead and see. Now I'm trying just to kind of pull the stuff that's been up off the ground. When it gets close to the ground, certainly by the roots, it's going to be a lot wetter. So again, there's some jagger bushes in here, so I'm being a little bit cautious when I'm gathering this. Okay, so this is probably enough tinder to really get the fire going pretty well. The thing is, you can't rush building a fire. You got to take enough time to gather all the stuff ahead of time so that when you actually get an open flame, you can just pour stuff on and it's gone. You know, it's going. You don't usually have time to gather stuff afterwards. Okay, then of course, if you're actually in a survival situation, you would go ahead and pick out a good spot to build a fire. We'd probably look at, see wherever we're going to be sleeping at to build a fire near that. But right now, I'm not too concerned because I'm not going to spend the night out here tonight. Now, normally what the best way to do it is just to kind of spread out the surface area a bit. Just create a lot of area in there that sparks can go in and catch something. When it starts to catch something, it should be able to burn a lot of this tinder. Okay. Now honestly, this is something I've hardly ever used a ferro rod before, so I might not even be able to get anything going. Hopefully I can. Next thing is, I'm going to have to look around for some twigs in which to get kindling. Okay. Looks like there's already a stick down there. And really, out in the woods, there's plenty of sticks along the ground you can normally pick up. These guys are dead. You can tell because whenever you break them, they get a real good snap to them. Okay. There's a small one. Okay, now, again, you know, using a lighter, that wouldn't be a problem getting the fire going, but using the ferro rod, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. And it's not something that I'm good at all. And that's kind of why I'm doing this video, to maybe give you guys some tips and really just practice myself. Now, sometimes when I see them, like people on TV, is they have their tinder pile separated from their main fire, and what they do is after they get a flame going, they can take their tinder pile, insert it into the fire, and just have everything lit up. So let's see here. Probably the most effective way of starting a fire is a little teepee structure. Now I'm just gonna try not to get too much in my eye, but I'm trying to insert this a little bit into the ground to create a solid teepee structure to where I can go ahead and lay other stuff across on. And I guess I'm trying to rush it a little bit too much, and you can see how it can come back to bite you when you try to rush things. But that's pretty good, I think. And again, I'm just kind of trying to build a rough teepee structure without knocking everything down. Once that tinder gets lit up, I think the rest of the stuff will burn pretty well. but you have to make sure there's enough in there, and especially enough to where the flames are. If you spread the wood out too much, it's just not going to light up. Okay, and real quick, I'm actually going to grab a little bit more tinder, because what I'll do is end up having a separate tinder pile, and then I'll insert it in there. That way I should have it flame up pretty fast, pretty good, hopefully. Okay, so this is going pretty good, hopefully. And I'm going to go ahead and try to light this tinder on fire using the ferro rod. Let me turn this screen towards me so I can see. Again, this is not a technique that I've used very much, and this is not the easiest way. If you're going out in the woods, I recommend carrying either some waterproof matches or a lighter, or both, plus one of these. That way you have a means for which to light a fire pretty easily, and one that'll last if everything else fails and gets wet. We're going to just kind of hold the ferro rod close and generate some sparks to see if we can get something on fire. Okay, and I have a fire, and sometimes you just got to position it in such a way that it'll quickly get on fire. And sometimes you're also going to have to apply some wind, some oxygen to keep it going. Now, to be honest with you, that was a little easier than I thought it would be. And it really goes to show you that probably that tall grass is about the best kind of tinder that you're going to get. Now, the first 10-20 minutes of a fire is the most critical time, so I'm going to be watching over this pretty carefully to make sure it keeps going. And to be honest with you, I didn't build the best structure to start out with to keep it going, so I'll be a little bit lazy there, but hopefully we'll be able to keep the fire going a while longer. Ugh. Now again, when I built the whole teepee structure, I really didn't get enough good kindling in there. Everything was separated too much, and really that grass burned up so quick. You can tell that some of this stuff is so high up off the ground, the initial flames weren't lighting it, so I had to inject, so to speak, some other real small kindling in there. And at this point, I think we got a pretty decent fire going. You still got to watch over it to make sure it's going. And I am going to collect just a little bit more around here, which I should have already done in the first place. And you can see that some of these spruce branches, or hemlock, I guess that tree is, even on the ends, even though they're still connected to a living plant, are just really very dry. Now, it didn't rain or anything today, but I think 2 days ago it did. So you can see that even though we've had some rain in the area, it was still pretty easy to get a fire going today. Now, if it were raining today, that grass may have been too wet for me to get a fire going, so it's not to say that it's extremely easy to do it. And honestly, I worked a little better than I thought maybe it would. I mean, anytime I see them do it on TV, they usually use grass. So I think that if you have tall grass, that's probably some of the best tinder to actually get a fire going. Even a lot of these leaves on the ground, even though they would catch a flame pretty well, catching a spark is very difficult to do that with them. And it's about time to start adding some bigger sticks on there. Now this is wood that I actually split last year with my K-bar bowie. At this point, I think what I'm going to do is just set this a little bit off the side, flatten the structure down and create almost like a log cabin fire. And we're not out of the woodwork yet. We still got to keep adding stuff. Again, if I weren't trying to rush this fire from the beginning, I would have actually gathered more stuff up and had it ready. But I rushed it. And really, we have a pretty small fire going, nothing spectacular. We can keep adding wood and expanding the base of it, though, if we want it to get larger. Every now and then I still like to apply a little more oxygen to it. One other thing that I recommend having if you're out in the woods is a can of sterno fuel. And what that is kind of a fuel that's used in a little pretty inexpensive stove. It's just a can of fuel that burns. And what I'll do is, if I want to get a fire going pretty quick, I'll just spoon a little bit of that stuff out and essentially use that as my tinder. And that'll burn for a while and give you a chance to dry out any wood. Because if everything's wet in the area, you're not getting a fire going with that ferro rod at all. Whereas with a can of sterno, you'll probably be able to. Okay. Brought a bunch of stuff back, and really, this would be good to get it going for a while. Again, I mean, I'm not using any main, real proper structure, but it's kind of a log cabin effect where I'm, weaving stuff back in and forth, building it up a bit. I'm still kind of using a TP, just injecting some of the wood in. If I would have spent more time, once again, at the initial, really build it up to where you have the tinder in the middle, some very small kindling, larger kindling, all the way up to your regular wood. Once I lit that tinder up, I could just sit back a little bit once everything catch fire. But this, I had to kind of run around and get wood going on before before everything burn up. And I'm gonna again add a little bit of oxygen. And really at this point, I think anyone could keep the fire going just by adding wood. As long as you didn't put a huge freaking piece on there that was soaking wet, I think you're going to be able to keep this fire going. And it'll keep you warm, you can cook your food over it and whatnot. Again, I'm not some sort of survival expert, not even some sort of expert fire builder. But the whole point is, when you have these ferro rods, you got to find some good tinder. Now, to be honest with you, I could go out there and grab some more of that tinder and very easily get a fire going, because just happens to be dry. I was pretty lucky I didn't have to walk very far. But I would say to you is, if you're looking for tinder out in the woods, try to find some tall grass like that, and then maybe some dry leaves. You can often find leaves suspended up off the ground from like little tiny trees, okay, especially in the fall. But again, if it just rained, who knows, I probably wouldn't have been able to get it going without any type of sterno or wet fuel or whatever kind of stuff to really supplement. You can see that fire is going pretty good, and actually at this point it's going to burn up fairly quick, because nothing on there too large. So we'd want to add some larger wood right now if we wanted to keep it going. At this point, I think I'm just going to let it die out. Better back up a little bit, huh? I'm going to just let it die out, because I really don't need a fire going right now. I'm already hot as it is, and to be honest, if I were in a survival situation, I'd be taking some layers off right now, because I'm starting to sweat and I don't really want to get my inner clothes wet. But beautiful fire out here. Man, I wish I had a steak or something to cook. Okay, thanks for watching.